Hi, Juana. It's so great to finally meet you and have you here. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your practice.
Sure. So my name is Juana Rodriguez. I am the owner of Lactation Whisper, a private lactation practice that comes to the families' homes in Southwest Florida. But I also do telehealth. I've been an international board certified lactation consultant since 95. I've helped parents who have just found out that they're expecting. I've helped parents once they have their baby, if they're having any issues with positioning. I've helped parents who are having some medical procedure and need to temporarily stop breastfeeding or collect milk during that procedure, or they're going back to school or back to work. I help them use the tools that their health insurance plan has provided for them. And I also help parents when they're ready to wean off of breastfeeding. So I've been in the industry helping families for the love of smelling babies. This is why I do it. I am not in it for the money because you don't make money. Hey, people, this is not the career if you
Flash.
want to make a if you want to have a full bank account. No, but it gives me joy when I'm in a grocery store and a family stops me. Hey, Juana, remember Junior? And Junior's running around the store and they expect you to remember.
I know.
So that gives
Trying to
me
remember her, let alone the baby.
exactly, because when I work with the family, sometimes they're in their house dress, no makeup, and the baby's a baby. And then they remember me because of the assistance that I provided them. And that keeps me going. That lets me know that I'm in the right path. This is what I was meant to do. So I love being a lactation consultant, helping families, especially Latina families. That is my passion.
Yeah. I love that they remember us. We see so many people and we want to keep track of everyone, but there's so many new faces every single day. But I love it. I love it too when you're somewhere and they remember you. It only takes a couple of words for you to actually remember people. So
Yes.
it's very, I agree with you. We're not in this to be rich. We're in this to
Mhm.
make the current and the future generation a little better.
Exactly. Exactly.
So we're celebrating Latinx Breastfeeding Week in September.
Mhm.
What is that to you?
So the Latina X was started a few years ago by a coalition of Latina lactation consultants. We saw the need to share our experience because it is unique.
Mhm.
Women all over the world breastfeed, but Latinas have a special situation when they're here in the United States and they're away from their abuelitas, the comadre, who can help them understand what is normal for breastfeeding. So, as the coalition got together, we devised selecting the date of September after Labor Day so that the Latinas can share their experience so they can see that they're not alone here in the United States, that there is help and there are other families who are going through the same thing. So that has been a drive that all of us, us Latina lactation consultants, we strive to build that up so
Mm.
that we can support our families.
And it's so important. Everyone has been having their own lactation week, and I know I've announced before, well, why don't you just join others? And their reason why there's so many different lactation weeks, where you have your standard World Breastfeeding Week, then you have the breastfeeding week for Black families, then now you have for Latina families. And the reason for that is we need to be in a community, in a tribe. As
Right.
Americans, already in our culture, even though all humanity was raised in one point as a tribe, it's important to us to be able to speak a language and support our own people. What are your thoughts about when we're out there supporting people that speaks our language and looks like us.
It is a need, and we do have to differentiate the cultures, because when you are providing education, when you're providing support, you're not an instructor of English. You're not trying to teach them something different. You're speaking their same language. You
Mhm.
understand when you tell them abuelita, or you have to eat the arroz con leche. Those are things that do not translate well if you go into another
Yeah.
culture. And even though Latinas were in the whole world, we more or less do not look alike, like Caucasians, European Caucasians. You can say blonde hair, blue eyes.
Mhm.
Latinas come in all shades. Latinas are white. Latinas are caramel color. Latinos are black, like
Mhm.
dark chocolate black. But the culture is more or less the same.
Yeah.
When I work with different Latin families, I ask them, well, how do you call habichuela? I'm Dominican. I say habichuela. They may say frijole, or
Mm.
they may say other words, but we more or less know what the commonality of breastfeeding is. And we all need to share and support and respect our culture. So again, the reason why the coalition came together is because a lot of Latinas do not get the support in the healthcare field when they speak with their physician or with their nurse. Oh, she's Hispanic. They do this. They do
Put them
this.
in a box. Put them in a box.
Exactly.
So
They
unfair.
categorize us as one way because they assume, when they
Right.
had one experience with one culture, that everybody is the same. And that's why we have devised our own week, so that we can support the family in their own language, knowing their culture and helping them, because here in the United States, they're separated from their regular support systems. So that's why we need to have that separation. Not that they cannot breastfeed. This is a universal language, but the cultural aspect helps in the support
Mhm.
and the education that they're going to receive from a lactation consultant.
Mhm. Can't tell you how many times when I walk into a room, either when I worked in clinic or even in private practice, when the moment they know I speak Spanish, they're like, "Ay, tú hablas español." Oh my, it's like you can tell their sense of relief, like, oh,
Yes.
finally, I don't have to struggle and chew my words. I can finally express myself. And sometimes I'll let them talk a little English because I want to make sure if this is it, are they catching on that I speak Spanish? Do they want to keep talking English? Because there are families that they want to try their best to speak English because they
Mhm.
want to practice. But then when I throw my Spanish, and they're like, the sense of relief. That's why we do the work that we do, right? Talking about the beginning, how we didn't come here to get rich, we came here to help
Mhm.
people. And just because we're celebrating Latinx Breastfeeding Week doesn't mean that we're not supportive of every culture. It's just
Exactly.
that we step aside for a few weeks, for a few days, for a month, and just plan on celebrating with our people, just like everybody else is doing with their own people. What has been your experience working in clinical with family that speak Spanish? How has been their acceptance?
Well, again, I'm a private lactation consultant that comes to the homes of families. So my experience has been that when a Hispanic has someone helping them in their own language, they're more relaxed.
Yeah.
They're they let the guards down, in the sense that they will tell you, well, yeah, I'm struggling. I don't have a car. My husband has to take the truck to go to work. So I'm here in the house and I may not have the ability to go to the store and buy some diapers. So they are able to voice the concerns because I'm a Latina, as they are.
Mhm.
And when they are in the hospital, again, when I worked in the hospital, my experience has been that they do speak a little bit more at ease when they see that you can speak their language. And that is why the coalition has developed, because we need that ability to help the families in their own culture. There are nuances that Latinas have, especially during the postpartum period, that is very different. And if you don't respect or understand why they're doing those those items or those things during postpartum period, you may, oh, I would say a white Caucasian, we say, oh, that's weird, when they don't understand.
I'm so glad you said that people let their guard down, the barriers and the walls come down, because that was my own personal experience. When I came to the United States, I was 24 and pregnant. I didn't know I was pregnant until I arrived here with my husband. He didn't know any English. And in Puerto Rico, I knew English because my uncle was an English teacher and my neighbors were from Brooklyn. So as we grew up, they learned better Spanish. I actually learned English. That's the power of friendship. So
Mhm.
English very early on as a child. But when I came here, I didn't know anyone. Even though I had a large family, no one was breastfed. When I
Mhm.
found a lactation consultant that spoke Spanish, those words can exactly be my words. I felt like I can say, I don't know nothing. I'm 24 years old. I'm expecting a child. I am college educated and I did not know breast were for breastfeeding. How embarrassing was that? But in her presence, I didn't feel embarrassed. I felt like I could be my authentic self. And that's usually is my testimony. I was able to be my authentic self. Although I'm grateful for the lactation consultants that I experienced with with other of my children, or in the hospital, or in a clinic that I went to. But it was my experience with her that was able to make me feel relaxed and calm, just like you said. And I think this is why it's so important that we're celebrating, and that Rumble Tuff is honored to celebrate this with us, because we're servicing families all over the United States, right? And many of our families deserve this level of care worldwide. There's no need why families have to struggle, why families have to make ends with supporting each other by themselves. We can
Mhm.
be that tribe along with them. I mean, we would never take away neighbors helping neighbors and friends helping friends. But we all know everybody has their best interest for the family when they recommend, but there's so much myth out there. And this is why I'm so passionate that with our initiative of Latinx Breastfeeding Week, we can break those barriers, we can break those myths, and we can kind of rejoin our community and get more lactation consultants out of there. Kind of like,
Yes, as well as having more Latina lactation consultants, everyone has to be aware that debunking those cultural myths are based on research, because IBCLC training provides the science that will back up the counseling that we provide our families. So when they give us the information of their cultural background, oh, mi abuelita used to say this, we can explain respectfully, not
Sending.
talking down to them. We can explain, well, this is what research has proven of why X, Y, and Z. And that's very important during the Latina X, that the knowledge is out there. And one of the wonderful things that Rumble Tough has does, your handouts for professionals, but especially for the parents, is basic. It's easy to read. It's not complicated as other corporations. They try to translate their information into Spanish, but I see it too complicated sometimes.
Yeah.
And you have to, your Rumble Tough is great, on point in the Spanish handouts for the parents.
A lot of the translation came from one of our employees that she's from Mexico and she's stationed in Utah. She did a lot of the translation, and then I've taken over to support that initiative. So I'm doing a lot of the translation too. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because there's been places that I read it. I feel like it's too robotic or too Spaniard, too one way. And then for other cultures, words change, accent change, sentence structures change, but keeping it at a reading level where we can quickly just get the information out is precedent. I'm glad
Right,
you noticed
right.
that. That's really good.
And Latina X Week is to educate all Latin American, because there's North American and there's South American. So providing education is one way that we can help all Latinas all over the world, because there are some Latina families in Europe. There
Mhm.
are some Latina families in Africa continent. So just the fact that Latina X Week is an opportunity to educate Latinas all over the world, but in particularly here in the United States, that's the aim of that week.
I love it. I'm so excited to celebrate. This year is the second year that
Mhm.
this initiative has been launched. Everyone's super excited to be able to continue to spread the word. Before we go, what is one myth you want to debunk that you've heard from the Latina family?
One of the myths
There's
is
many.
the one in particular that I keep hearing recently, this past couple of weeks, not to eat frijoles. I'm
Mhm.
like, what?
That's the first for me.
What Latina doesn't eat frijoles?
That's great in
Well,
iron. We need the
yeah.
iron.
Well, I've been hearing it a lot postpartum. And I keep reminding them, well, when you were pregnant, you were eating your frijoles. So let's go back and find out why that was said. And I explain, I educate the reason why abuelita, or in our village, you might have been banned or suggested not to eat. And I remind them of the cooking method and so, because again, I have a Bachelor of Science in Food Science and Nutrition. So I really go
Talk on
back.
the subject.
Yeah, I really go back, but that in particular, that sticks with me because, as I said, I'm in private practice, and all of a sudden, I'm hearing my Latinas say this, and there are others, but that one in particular, I'm like, what?
It was spices. I had one that booked me and she just wanted to talk about, I guess not talk about, but vent because her grandma
Uh-huh,
and mom were home from their native country and they weren't
uh-huh,
really letting her do much. So we talk about the cuarentena and how normal that was. But then she
right.
said, not letting me eat spices, anything spicy because it will hurt the baby. And of course, we laughed about her. She was educated enough to know. She just wanted to know how to approach it with their family. And I
Right.
told her, well, will you miss it much while they're here and you're not eating spices? And she's like, no, I'm like, it's not broken. So there's nothing to be fixed. But
Hmm.
you want to have a conversation with them, you can definitely. But if
Right.
you don't want to kind of rock the boat, how do you feel about kind of not eating spices while they're here to also help them feel empowered and helpful with you? And she found that to be a great balance. Kind of like that's the other spectrum with all the time. Sometimes we want to fix, 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 fix. And there's other times where we have to understand, is it killing anybody? Am I
Right.
gonna starve if I don't eat this? And then let them know that, hey, it's okay to be able to go with the flow of family if it's
Mhm.
not something that's hurtful.
Right.
Awesome.
But again, Latina X Week is
Mhm.
the education opportunity of lactation consultants to
Mhm.
help our Latina families. So that's why we're really emphasizing the need to reach out
Yes.
within the Latina community.
Tell everybody where they can find you, how they can book you, how they can learn more about you.
Okay. So my company is the Lactation Whisperer,
Mhm.
and
That name always love it.
they can find me on my website, lactationwhisper.com.
Mhm.
They can call my phone number, which is on my website. I always like to speak to the family before I have them commit to booking an appointment, because some of them are not aware that the health insurance plan
Mhm.
covers the consultation. So they can reach out to me through my website, thelactationwhisperer.com, and we can take it from there. If I cannot help them, I'll find another Latina consultant that may help them.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for joining me.